Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment in the series that I only about 5 minutes ago realized I had not created a playlist for called The Breakdowns. It seems like we like to stay about 15, 20 minutes on one of these. It's pretty easy. I do them right here. I go on the bench, I go like this. Sometimes I move that out of the way, sometimes I don't. This guy's got kind of a high belly, so today's topic is the Ghost Rover. Why is he called Ghost Rover? Well, we had a build here called Gate Rover, which we took a Gatekeeper kit and we put a Traxxas Defender body on it. Land Rover, Gatekeeper, Gate Rover. Then we determined that the performance wasn't getting what we liked. So we effectively disassembled Gate Rover and we took the parts. We put it on this. It became Ghost Rover. Of course, as the Canyon is a place of all things Thesian, Gate Rover contains... Ghost Rover contains virtually nothing of Gate Rover anymore. That's how that works. A big part of was that at the beginning, it is quite skid forward. And we determined fairly quickly that BTA, behind the axle steering linkage on an element axle, is not going to work. And also the pinion, by it being center pinion, the pinion on an element axle also didn't like it. The front drive shaft is about that long. The rear drive shaft is about that long. I mean, you can see the length differential. It is very much skid forward and was built specifically to mount this Phoenix shell, which was Argenum's original shell before he got a nice patina job. The rails are, of course, Canyon. The axles are currently Mias of the, what do they call them? HD44s, Big Curries. And these are, this is a very sticky avenue to go down because there are so many versions of this axle. This is the one that just accepts standard AR-45 knucklery and parts on it, and many of them don't. If you're looking at this style of axle with the kick pumpkin, and it doesn't have C-hub like this and knuckle like this, if the knuckle doesn't go, we're going to go closer like that. If it doesn't go outside like that, don't buy it because you have no knuckle options unless you're willing to throw all the weight inside the wheel and just rotating mass it out. The Ghost Rover is very much in the spirit of all things Canyon. There's a Stealth X in it. There's a Rhino V80 in it. There's a SA75 CVSW, probably a V1. Yes, a CVSW V1. These are things that I like. As I was building the chassis rails for it, which are crazy enough, I just put mounting holes. Like the rails are literally, with the tremendo kick on the skid, I don't remember how many degrees, I just made mounting points because we knew exactly what body we were building it to. Remaining element pieces. Rod ends, front bumper mount. The bumper is one that I welded. It's a little too vertical, but I do like that it basically doesn't stick out past the tires. And receiver box. I believe that's it. I think now, oh, and the transmission. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the gearbox. So that is the OG gearbox from the Gatekeeper kit, and those are the bumper mounts and the chassis brace and the receiver box. But other than that, it's cast off Vanquish bits to fit the body. I made my very own pieces because I wanted to turn the alignment pins into body pins. These are just made out of square Delrin stock, and I checked it up in the lathe. Put them flat so that we pass through this hole. Custom fabrication, other than rails and the bumper, and There is a spacer underneath the gearbox to raise the gearbox up a little bit. Don't remember why, but it is. Don't remember why, but there it is. Typical battery on servo and axle mounting. He's got rock lights and angel eyes. And of course, we only go the cleanest and the finest with the wiring with a little bit of Gorilla Tape in there. The truth, the hidden truth of the Ghost Rover, who sits on a 330 wheelbase, is this. Over on a website, you may have heard of it, called Reddit, it's Flex Friday, bros. And what guys will do is they will take a vehicle, which they know nothing about the operation of, and they will just slap like 110 millimeter shocks on it. And then because the shock is longer, they now have more flex, otherwise known as articulation. And they'll be like, oh, check it out, Flex Bro. And typically, when you do that, you sort of effectively destroy the handling. Like, it just gets worse at everything. Now, that said, if you want to build something long travel, you can absolutely do that. And it's not that hard, provided that you're ready to cut out your own chassis rails. Because you can basically attach your axles to a skid. You can take the shock, like this. You can put it to where you believe that shock will sit at ride height, which should be links about level. So the shock will be compressed about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way. And then you will swing it through an arc and you will find out where the holes line up. And compared to another chassis rail, the mounting holes for the shock positions on here are probably in the neighborhood of 20 millimeters higher than they would be on another chassis and rails or another typical. Let me get a rail. We'll just go with a rail from a VRD Carbon. So if we get this guy down, let me get him down to where the skid is. So right about there is the attachment point. He's a bit way too high. This needs to be down about here. That right there would put the skid about even. And as you can see, I mean, there's a bit of parallax in it, but this would basically put the nose of the skid where the nose, so this isn't skid forward, so we'll line it up with the chassis like that. So the shock holes are significant, like look where the shock tower is. All of the back, the rearmost holes are in front of there. Also, this isn't designed to be a 330 millimeter wheelbase. This is. This is mounting probably close to an inch behind where this tower ends. And about 13, 14 millimeters above. We're very laid down. We're running blue springs, which are one of the stiffer ones. If you want to make something long travel, if you believe that long travel is pretty cool, we've got 165 millimeters in the rear. We've got 165 millimeters in the front. Typically, when I'm setting up a rig, I'm shooting for about the height of a tire, between, say, 3/4 of the height of the tire and the height of a tire. TRX4s by nature are low travel. A TRX4 in stock configuration will flex about that, will articulate about that much. You'll get about 2/3 the height of a tire. And there are vehicles that a lot of the Geo, especially if that vehicle from the factory is chassis mounted steering, the Geo of that vehicle, if it's designed to be low travel, it's designed to be a short travel rig, and you just put 110 millimeter shocks on it, everything goes right out the window. Traxxas High Trail, which is what these shocks are from, accommodates for that. It has a much longer panhard mount, so it drops the panhard way down. You are still making concessions. Everything we do in this is a compromise. And if you want long travel, if you want big long travel, my first advice is put the servo on your axle. Don't worry about geometry, because the longer the shock gets, the easier it is to mess up the relationship between the panhard and drag link, the front upper, the whole front end geometry. So why worry about front end geometry? Just put 4 links in the front and go from there. Set your wheelbase. Use your lower links to set your wheelbase. Use your upper links to set your pumpkin angles. These HD44s, I must point out, have a pretty decent amount of front caster, even though to get this where we are, like that's not bad. Feel the pins leaning back. We're still probably 15 degrees, between 15 and 20 degrees of caster. And you can see the attitude of the servo is basically aiming down, because we're trying to get that. We don't have a perfect angle on there because the input on a Stealth X is pretty high. If we were to replace that gearbox with something like an OD3, it would probably clean things up quite a lot, while at the same time introducing just a whole mess of problems, because the motor would, instead of, the chassis was designed to have the motor right there. It is a 9i mod, 1400 kV, as mentioned, off the Rhino V80. And the Rhino V80 is being wasted in this application because we're running a direct power servo with it. As I tend to find those throughout the fleet, I tend to jockey electronic systems around. The Gate Rover is, again, sometimes one of the best reasons to build the vehicle is because the vehicle is like a little tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of an inside joke. That's what's right, bros. Which all of those things are going to handle more poorly than they did when they were built. So this one was built to be very long travel, much, 2 inches, 50 millimeters above the height of the tire. And it doesn't run the lightest body in the world, but it is the body that I wanted to run. It does have a very comfortable handle to pick it up by. It is one of those things that I would regard as nearly perfectly done to an arbitrary Canyon standard. I don't have it. This is the only rig that runs J Concepts holds all the way around, because they really do something about it. Something about the long travel, something about the width. Deep offsets on the HD44s. We are almost 270 wide. Something about it. There's something more than the sum of the parts happening here, and I really like that. I also like the Stealth X with whatever axle you're putting with it. It is not overwhelmingly complicated. Wow. God doesn't even have his own stickers in his own vehicles. How many rigs here actually have the stickers on them? Where should we go? Right in the middle? Okay. How many rigs here don't have the sticker? Probably most of them. I can't remember. I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, much less which vehicles I put stickers on. So the Ghost Rover is one of those great things. I would call it realization of a thought experiment, plus a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's a little bit of a joke, and that frees us up, because then we can use it as an excuse. We can say, oh, well, he's got little issues with his performance. I put a little too much bend in those rear links, did I not? I built all of the rear links. They're all 4mm throughout. You can see a little bit of the bluing maybe from where I heated them and bent them. He's got a party trick, which is go full. The articulation goes both ways. We can get it down to about 20 millimeters of clearance. He sits about. Did I make all the links for this thing? I made all the links except the front uppers, which are just, they look like elements. Made the brass lowers, made all the rears. I don't know. If you've got a question about the Ghost Rover beyond the simple one that I can't answer, because of the wonderful things it does, be sure to put them in the comment section. If there's a rig that you'd like to see featured, please do ask about that one. I'm kind of just going in order. Like Yella should be next. Have I done Yella? I haven't done Yella, right? No, I haven't done Yella. Next will be Yella and then Misdirection. I'm just kind of going in order down the garages as we get here, as we're progressing along, because I can do this for another. If I do one a week, it's going to take over a year to get through them. So, kills the time. Thanks so much, everybody. As always, questions, comments, comment section below. And in between now and when we meet again, please I'll do your very best. And I'll see you again here real soon, hopefully from the Canyon, with another breakdown, with another quick view, with another whatever. He's a good guy. Like, is he perfect? No. But does it always have to be perfect? No.